even though we are well-established, well-positioned, nicely profitable bank, number 3 in the country, and no explicit burning platform, there are challenges on the horizon and what might be the new competition stemming from other parts of businesses, fintechs, startups of all kinds, non-banking institutions. We spoke with advisory companies and we said, this is our problem. What would you recommend to us? And they say, did you hear about Agile?
Juhalka, the CEO of Komerční Bank, has been part of the French Société Générale for almost 2 decades, has been leading its Czech subsidiary. The third largest bank in our country with more than 2.2 million clients. Last year alone, the group generated a net profit of 15.6 billion crowns. Juhelka most recently pulled off a masterstroke when he sold the bank's former headquarters on Vencela Square to Prague for $3.65 billion. And Juhelka once mentioned to Forbes, Komerční should be more agile, more innovative, and on a completely different technological level than ever before.
I will be very blunt here. I don't see too much reasons of making Agile only in the tech part.
Did you know that what you did several years ago is called business agility in the industry now? When you came in as a CEO again, there were some competitive pressures, there were some challenges. What were the challenges that you were looking at?
Komerční was established back in 1991 as a corporate bank. So by DNA, we are a corporate bank. Since day one, Komerční started to attack retail banking and building its clientele on that front as well. When I came, I had first, let's say, term with Komerční between 2006 and 2012, where I was the head of corporate and investment banking, and management board member. So I did care about our clients, about delivering them value-added solutions. It was a rather sophisticated part of banking, and this is why I also replicated my experience in next 5 years in Paris. When coming back as CEO, I realized very quickly that the corporate and investment bank, I know very well. There is another part, which is a retail bank, which I knew a little bit less. And there is a third part in the bank, which is everything what is product management, everything what is marketing, everything what is communication, everything what is finance, HR, compliance, and others. So on that front, I had to learn quickly. What I learned after first 3 to 6 months was that even though we are well-established, well-positioned, nicely profitable bank, number 3 in the country, and no explicit burning platform, there are challenges on the horizon which might be attacking the most attractive parts of our business. And then we started to analyze with my team what are those parts of banking where we can get better, we can fill the gap vis-a-vis our competitors, and what might be the new competition stemming from other parts of businesses, fintechs, startups of all kinds, non-banking institutions providing financing to the economy, and others. And we discovered very quickly that this is not the product, this is not the, let's say, composition of our balance sheet or what is at stake. This is the culture what is at stake. This is how we react on challenges on the market. How fast we are, where clients are demanding something new, where we stand with our technological assets, in order to be able to be faster in front of clients. And we discovered that definitely there are things to be fixed, there are things to be improved.
This is interesting because at the same time you were doing that, I was on Wall Street. And Wall Street had the same challenges, meaning fintechs. And they wanted to really improve because a lot of their processes, lots of their businesses, the operations aspects were very slow. And clients wanted things to be faster. And the fintechs were taking away their business. And they started moving towards Agile. And they found themselves really not understanding Agile, trying to deliver something using Agile, and especially in the technology area, and not really making a lot of headway. To some extent, at some point, it became like Agile is not a great solution. So what made you pick Agile?
I need to say I was ignorant about Agile at the beginning. Yeah. Sure. So we went first with the diagnosis, what is happening in the bank, and where we should improve ourselves. The method came afterwards. We wanted to be faster. We wanted to be more nimble. We wanted to react accordingly to the increasing demand for new and modern solutions from our clients. And obviously, it were fintechs, but in broader terms, it was fast-changing environment, which is bringing sometimes currently unknown challenges in front of us, thanks to technologies which are available to much larger scale of investors, people, entrepreneurs, companies. And how do we react on it in the middle? We spoke with advisory companies and we said, this is our problem. What would you recommend to us? And they say, did you hear about Agile? And we said, well, probably somehow in a very superficial way we did, but how does it fit to our needs? And we started to elaborate on the methodology, because what looked like sort of modern, if you wish, fashionable part coming from techie people looked suddenly as a solution for not so small company as Komerční is, and probably fitting to our diagnosis of where is our problem. This is how we have started discovering Agile.
Very fascinating in Wall Street. They focus mostly on implementing Agile in organizations which were more technical, focused on delivering projects and thinking about hierarchies. You know, we don't need a project manager, we need a product owner, we need this person here. Maybe looking at silos of work that's being done on a technical basis, like maybe a developer, QA, release people, now they're becoming part of a team. And that also was, by the way, challenge just to do it in technology. You took a very different approach as I read the paper. It was going from technology transformation to actually a cultural transformation.
Exactly, because if I'm more specific about what was happening in the company was that there were business people, simplified version, but let's call them business people, including marketing and the marketing part of the product development, and there were IT people, coders, designers, etc. The marketing people were supposed to make specific enough requests, sending it to IT and waiting for the final product. The final product came usually late, not entirely accordingly to what the marketing people expected, and the dialogue continued in the way of accusations. You didn't prepare what I wanted to get. You didn't specify deeply enough what you expect, so I'm giving you what I read in your paper. So the next step, which organizations usually did, and we did, we have put the translator in the middle, saying, here is the central project management office.
Yeah.
Those people work both languages, business and IT, and they will make the conversation more fluid. In reality, we created third silo. The level of complexity increased, the level of interactions increased, and there were like competitive, if not antagonistic, relationships amongst those people. So we said probably we should somehow align their interests.
Yeah.
And we probably should take people of different professions and make them mixed or multidisciplinary teams, assign them for the same task, which is not a project, but it's defined in the business terms, ROE, cost to income, market share, net promoter score, whatever.
Yeah.
And make them cooperate together and work together. We have massively decreased the level, the number of managerial layers in the organization. So the overall underlying task here was how to make the headquarters much more interactive amongst each other, much more efficient, much more productive, how to make the bank more attractive for people working inside, and how to make it more attractive for clients, because at the end of the day, the only what counts is the how how likely the client will continue cooperating with us.
Very fascinating. Did you know that what you did several years ago is called business agility in the industry now? People sell this idea of business agility, where you're really thinking about the entire business focused on being agile.
Honestly, I will be very blunt here. I don't see too much reasons of making agile only in the tech part. In companies of the complexity of Komerční and similar companies.
Yeah.
Because if you want to take the IT guy, which is usually very smart,
Sure.
and you show him the opportunity that he or she might be co-deciding about the future design of the product, about the future commercial success of our business, instead of putting him in the corner and saying, you make the coding, we make the decisions, we make... It makes so much sense that they are coexisting, the business people with the tech people in one, because who is leading the business scene today? It's tech companies,
yes,
large tech companies. Yeah. Do they distinguish between, who is tech and who is business? Probably not, because their business is a tech business.
Yes.
We are in banking.
Yeah.
I am not the author of this claim that banks are technological companies with banking license, but it somehow reflects the reality. Because if you want to be faster, if you want to fit with the needs of people of today, we should be less visible probably in a beautiful branches somewhere in city centers, but we should be probably accessible from the mobile phone, from the internet, etc., etc. In our case, also complemented by the branches, obviously, because we are a universal bank, third largest bank in the country, but being, being technologically savvy and technologically, let's say, thinking company.
As a CEO, you came in, you found a challenge, you adopted Agile, and you went about trying to make your business agile. And you went with one pilot change, and that pilot change was in business. Walk us through that journey. Why did you pick business finance, and what was it like?
It was very intensive part of this discussion. I will put ourselves even one step back and say, we have drafted a new strategy of the bank, which was based on the implementation of Agile at scale, and which was built on measurable outcomes, which we have put in front of ourselves and then in front of everyone. We are publicly traded, so we had to be absolutely transparent with that. In order to make the somehow understandable prerequisites for that, we didn't want to say, you will be agile and we will remain as we are. So we started with ourselves. We really canceled hundreds of managerial positions even before introducing Agile, in order to say, we want to change the bank to completely new form, completely new way of doing things. And yes, we can call it cultural change, and it is a cultural change. And we wanted to start with the top management, and we did it. So that was first step. Second step, implementing Agile. We say, do we prepare everything in the very perfect form, and then we do the change overnight or over the weekend, which would be going against the principles of Agile methodology, by the way, but it was somehow tempting us to go this way because it would be quick and applicable to everyone at one moment. Then we said, probably not. Probably we should go iteration after iteration, incremental changes.
Yeah.
But it cannot take us too long, because those who are first will not understand why there is so much of prolongation, and those who will come last will not be patient enough to wait, and we might be losing the momentum. So we took the paper of the strategy. I called 250 most important people and told them the whole story. This is what we are going to do. There was tons of questions, because the the fundament of this change was so big that also the veterans and also the newcomers were curious, what exactly is it bringing? Second, we put 10 teams, approximately 10 members in each team for drafting the whole landscape. And I am not speaking about top 100 people working on it. It was 100 people coming from various corners of the bank, including Scrum Masters. We didn't know what Scrum Master means. We didn't know we have them in the company. Yeah. They were working somewhere in the basement of IT, doing their small Agile experiments, but delivering the value on their own. And it was like bottom up. So we made those 30 people one of the most important cohorts in the story. And suddenly,
fantastic.
And suddenly we have made, let's say that, pretty dense but still manageable calendar between beginning of August 2018 and end of February 2019 for the entire organizational change. In that particular moment, 60% of the headquarters, 60% people in the headquarters changed their job description, team, the boss, the place from which he or she worked, etc. So it was really, really massive. And to make it understandable for everyone, we were constantly in front of people. The communication of the change, the determination of the top management, the engagement of the top management played, I would say, significant role. It was the driving force of everything, because we didn't want to be the observers of the change. We wanted to be the drivers of the change. And this is how I and my team have approached the project at the beginning.
So I'm assuming you made these Scrum Masters come up, and because of their knowledge, the fact that they have been doing Agile experiments, they have the knowledge there. Who would they report to?
When we were drafting the strategy, we were drafting the landscape of the Agile implementation. In fact, there was like 10 teams. By the way, there is one curiosity embedded inside. I gave them my office. My office at that time was one of the largest offices for CEOs in the country or in the city of Prague.
Okay.
I felt so alone there, so lost. It was like, I'm not exaggerating, maybe 40 square meters, maybe 50 square meters, huge office. And I said, well, maybe we should be somehow together. So I gave them the office. Suddenly there was like almost 20 working stations, etc. I took much smaller next door, and we started to work together. The average age of these people was below 30. And they have made like the draft. They've organized everything under my direct supervision, if I may say. And I felt inside this team instead of being like chairman of the team or observant team. So this is how we were organized. And at the very beginning, they directly reported to me. In the second phase, they became the center of expertise for Agile, COE Agile, and they started to report to the management team member in charge of digitization and IT.
I imagine, right, just from knowing and gone through many Agile transformations, there would be a lot of resistance. So you have the top aspects covered, and you've spoken to these people and got them bought in to some extent. But when it comes to some of the middle managers, potentially some of the other departments, which have maybe not directly heard from you, there must be resistance. Did that happen, and how did you counter that?
It happened. I don't know to which extent it was a resistance, which extent it was a misunderstanding or lack of information amongst people. But when you touch like 60% of the entire headquarters, you need to be very diligent in making sure that everyone understands what's going on. People, shareholders, and the regulator or supervisor, and you speak with them in much, much more intensive way than before, because you are really going to do fundamental transformation of the organization. So let's stay with people for a second. I was in front of them probably 3-4 times more often than before, And it was still probably 3-4 times lower than they would expect or they would need. So what we did also during this transformation, so between the August 2018 and February 2019, what we continued doing systematically, it was like every other week taking the feedback from them. So we distinguished by thirds, and every other week we sent sort of 5 to 7 questions to everyone for the first third, in 2 weeks' time to everyone from the second, third, and etc. So we had constantly the pulse check of the company. What's going on? What is the level of certainty, support, enthusiasm, or resistance, pushing back, etc. And we worked with that very intensively. So, and it brought me literally a few times in a week in front of people, speaking, explaining, and implementing.
I think you mentioned it, but it's still, I'm trying to grasp the idea of how you could sell this to regulators, especially if they're external and they're looking for, or they're used to a certain way of working. And you're saying, we are going to work differently and we're going to deliver or share with you things differently. That happened to me at JP Morgan Chase, where we were working with an external regulator, OCC, doing some huge changes. And to explain it to them was very difficult. So how did you really handle that?
The main regulator to Komerční is Czech National Bank. Yeah. We are holding our own currency. There is a full-fledged central bank. And at that time, it was me going to the governor, speaking with him about the frame of what we are going to do, trying to explain the way we are going to implement the change, showing him how the risks are mapped, who are the owners of the risks, how they find the right people when they come for on-site inspection. We were lucky at that time because part of the management board of Czech National Bank had the background in ING Bank, who was probably one of the pioneers of implementing Agile. Yeah. So they understood the language, they understood the main principles, but we had to be very diligent on explaining. It was not only me. We organized repetitively workshops for the teams of Czech National Bank inside Komerční, explaining everything, answering a lot of questions coming from them, to the moment where they told us we are comfortable with that. We think we have enough information. Only afterwards we started. We have pushed the button and we started.
So in a way, you had a little bit of an advantage that ING Bank had done this before.
Yeah, exactly. We're lucky.
How was this to sell to Societe Generale? Because you are also subsidiary. You want to make sure that they are comfortable with this.
It was the first place where we went for the rubber stamp, if I may say, for the approval.
Yeah.
In the context of, I'm the new CEO. Here is the team. We want to do this on the longer horizon. This is our strategy. Those are our targets. Those are the KPIs and objectives and key results upon which we will measure the success. Here is the organizational change, and here is the change which will be implemented in the way of mainly product development, but you know that it's going much broader than only product development. And they acknowledged, they approved, they established some control checks, over time, whether we fulfill what we have promised, and we went out. Yeah, that was like that. There is one, if I may come back to the calendar, because I will never forget those dates, beginning of August 2018, end of April 2019. 16 tribes were established with a tribe lead, product owners, Scrum masters, and etc., etc.
Yeah.
During this period of time, we wanted to start with 2 so-called lighthouse tribes.
Sure.
And we picked up payments and we picked up corporate financing. 1 week before the sharp start, I realized that we are not ready for one of them. So we said to ourselves, do we postpone the entire, or do we go in front of people and say, listen, we made a mistake. We will launch only one lighthouse tribe.
Right.
Then we looked back to the book, and it says, listen, if you are agile, one of the main principles is to learn by mistakes.
Yes.
Not to crucify people for mistakes.
Love that.
So if you go and make mistake, just learn from it and don't repeat the same mistake afterwards. And we said, well, it's a risky moment because people, the skeptics might say, well, it's not prepared. Well, they don't know what they do. You see 50% failure because there were 2 letters. Yeah. One of them was put aside. But we decided, and rightly so, that we go out and we say, instead of launching 2, we are launching only 1. And we do it because we made a wrong assessment at the beginning. And this is how we will work. That's and it was very special moment, if I may say, because we realized on our own example that it's human to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And it should be human that those mistakes would not be repeated.
Yeah, yeah. This connects so much with me as a coach. I work with several teams, several organizations, and people come to me and say, we're not ready. We need more time before we start sprinting. And I say, why? Just go. And then they go, and after 2 or 3 sprints, they realize that they learned more by sprinting rather than if they had taken the time to prepare. And so I really don't think that sprints are something where you deliver. They're not delivery cycles. They are learning cycles. As you deliver or as you work on things, you learn, and you go from forming all the way to performing, if you continue to do that well.
We went through these practical situations so many times since then that I can only confirm it's hard sometimes because people don't like to make mistakes and then don't like to speak about the fact that they made mistakes. We collectively are not educated for that. So it requires certain work on more or less on individual basis and definitely on the team basis, that going from one sprint to the other and learning from the process is so much enriching experience and so important for the future success and so important for building the trust between people that there is probably no better way than saying to be together on the way to make the first step is more important than the perfect preparation and quick delivery afterwards. So yes, I think that it's one of the discoveries we have made on the way. Yeah.
So you set up these tribes, they start working, and then I found in the paper that you talked about this quarterly business review. Tell me a little bit more about this quarterly business review and how that helped you keep a check and understand what these teams are doing, these tribes are doing.
At the beginning, I told you that one of the diagnoses which we wanted, what we wanted to change was that there were 3 perfect silos. Inside those silos, there were highly educated professionals, experienced people, doing their best, but the system didn't allow them to capitalize on their expertise enough in the interest of the company. When you make the landscape of tribes, you have 16 tribes, you have centers of expertise, you have multidisciplinary people, multidisciplinary teams inside. You are at risk that instead of dismantling 3 strong silos, you created 16 small silos, which might be also perfectly isolated from each other. Yeah. So, one of the beauty and one of the duties, which the management is in charge of, is to create an environment where the communication will be as simple as possible, as fluid as possible, as flawless as possible amongst those teams, that people will be sticking to the fact that the interest of the company is more than the interest of the team, than the interest of the individual. And in order to make it happen, you call them all once a quarter and you speak. You speak about what was the delivery, what were the problems on the way, did we fail somewhere, can we learn from someone else's mistakes, etc. So we came out with something unseen at that time in our organization, let's talk all openly between people from business, people from business, it means that we started not at the beginning, and it was another small mistake. We didn't invite people who are selling, like bankers, into these sessions, but we started to do it afterwards. And this is what we do. This is what is the delivery, etc., etc. And how does it reflect on our P&L? The banker is saying, I have been patiently waiting for solution A, for solution B. It's not coming, etc., etc. When you are mixing the people, you are creating another layer of, let's say, multidisciplinary discussion and better creating the priorities, for the entire organization. What is important inside is that we go from the promises which were made for the previous quarter and checking what was delivered or not, and why not, and why yes. What is to be celebrated, what is to be taken as a failure, and we can learn from that.
Yeah.
And projecting to the next quarter, and again, speaking about prerequisites for delivery of the next quarter. How is it moving this? How is it moving that? Do we reprioritize something? Because in our case, you have more than 50 people speaking about the same topics and making sure that the next quarter is, again, as simple as it gets, in order to deliver what was promised.
So, this culture that we have in the United States, for example, is employees. So I'm shifting towards people now. And employees typically do not get to fulfill what they are capable of. So their capabilities are sort of restricted and minimized. And many a times that matters more than how much they get paid. And many a times because of that, they leave the organization and go to other organizations. With this change, I heard from you that you were getting these people to really deliver on their capabilities and even do more than they could have ever imagined. What was the rate of satisfaction and retention?
At the beginning, let's start with the very first moments of organizational changes. We were afraid that there will be huge outflows, that people will not buy it, etc. But it didn't happen. Yeah, and we were vocal also through social media, mainly LinkedIn, to say, hey, we are doing something important here. It will be a large project. We will transform the bank from the very traditional scheme to the very new scheme. Would you like to be part of this story? And we wanted to make the story attractive for people already working in the bank and for potential newcomers. As I told you, we were obsessed by taking the feedback from people in very regular basis. So every other week, I was reading the answers. I was reading the verbatims, who thinks what about the way, etc. When things were implemented and it became a bit more like business as usual, we had to make sure that everybody feels useful, that they have the sense of coming every morning to the work and contributing into their teams. By shrinking the number of the layers of the pyramid of managers, for someone who likes climbing the company's ladder, maybe we made it less attractive, and this is creating, and I will be personal now, this is creating a bit of schizophrenia, especially in the top, in the case of top management, because theoretically I was climbing the ladder to the top, and I am now saying to the organization that flatter we are, better for everyone. So you hear the dilemma which is inside. Nonetheless, HR and each and every tribe leader, the management and the leadership team, started to reconstruct a little bit also what exactly people expect from their careers, what is exactly the way they can grow in an agile organization, which is by definition flatter compared to the traditional hierarchical organization, and how do they fulfill their expectations. And obviously it's a daily struggle, right? I will not pretend that we have found the recipe for creating heaven, right?
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
no, we need to be realistic here, and we need to take people's feedback seriously. We take the feedback either once or twice in a year now, because the waters are much calmer and we are more in the business as usual regime. Nonetheless, we need to make sure that there is enough training, there is enough platforms. We created voluntary communities of people with the same interest, to make sure that they can share what they know, what they have learned. They can teach someone, they can coach someone, they can mentor someone, they can be part of some community of people sharing their positive and sometimes not so positive experiences, etc. And to make sure that the top management is not isolated.
Yeah.
It's another aspect which must be put in the scheme. From this perspective, we are measuring the level of satisfaction of our people, the level of stress, the level of engagement, the level of do you like working here, do you understand what you do on long-term basis, on short-term basis, etc. It's by coincidence, but a week ago, I was again in front of top 250 people, as I was back in 2018, telling them, guys, we have been working on this transformation process for so many years that some of you don't even remember the beginning, because there was the beginning in 2018, there was another, let's say, important milestone in 2020, which was the start of heavy investments into technologies, and I will come back to it. And I say, if you have been working with us for the last 5 years, someone for the last 7 years, but you started in 2019 or in 2021, you have probably never heard from me the whole story. And I went in front of them with the leadership team, telling them where we are, from where we are going, where we are heading to, in order to make sure that we are all on the same page. And then afterwards, we were rolling down, the information to the entire organization. So I'm coming back to the golden rule that if you want really to make a profound change of this kind, make sure that you as a leader, you are completely transparent, completely understandable, completely authentic, and completely communicative in front of people. Don't hide.
Yeah.
You must be visible and take the responsibility.
You mentioned that there was a second phase that you said you're going to come back to with
the technology.
Yes.
The bank, as many other banks, as vast majority of banks, was running the business on technologies from mid-90s.
Yeah.
Mainframe,
sure,
as a core banking system, softwares which were created as as one unit. So every change which you had to code in the software meant that you were in the position to make some sort of heart surgery to the application or to the software. And we said, well, maybe with these tools, even if in a modern organization, we will not achieve what we want to achieve.
Yeah.
Which is, coming back to the definition, be as fast as possible in fulfilling the expectations of the clients, to keep the company evergreen, to keep the company flexible, nimble, agile, and fast, in order to be also quick when things are fastly changing in the external environment, be it fintechs, be it, which we didn't know at the beginning, COVID-19, be it some other huge changes which will secure us in front of the risks stemming from this situation. So we said, maybe it's time to upgrade the technologies. When we started to dismantle what does it mean in reality, and we saw the various layers of hardware up to the core banking system, we said, maybe it's time to upgrade the core banking system. And this is one of the most, I would say, courageous claims which banks can do, saying, we will change, we will replace our core banking system. Yeah. And we said, well, majority of these projects, they fail.
Yes.
They put in place the new core banking system, it's not functioning, it's not delivering what is expected. So the bank writes it off and goes back to the previous one, which was obsolete, old, coded in COBOL, which nobody is is able to not nobody, but almost nobody is able to work in.
Yeah.
So we said maybe we should go step by step in the agile way, incremental, establishments, going from minimum viable to something what is more matured, etc. So we have decided to go for the solution of a Temenos company, T24 as the new core banking system. It's a 21st century technology. And we said, this is the basic, and we decided for multi-currency and multi-country because we are active in 2 different countries, Czech Republic and Slovak Republic, which historically was one country, Czechoslovakia, but we divorced back in 1993. And then decided to say, and there are 2 different currencies. So we are like working in fulfilling the existing needs, but also making sure that the modularity and the scalability of this new system would potentially allow us to serve bigger number of clients, which was not the case for the old core banking system. There were some limits which we were approaching. It will be fast. It will be 24/7, fully online, not the night batch processing, but fully online. And in 2023, because there was core banking, analytical and marketing layer, and the new application in mobile banking, internet banking, and the branches of the same design, by the way, but again, we can come back to it, put in place, and we started to migrate the clients from the old to the new, cohort by cohort. So we started with the simplest combination of products, which was current account and debit card.
Yeah.
First migrations, learning, going back to the old, current account, debit card, saving account. Second wave of migration, learning from that. There were mistakes on the way.
Of course.
There were difficulties on the way. Not every client was happy that we are stealing 10, 15 minutes for migrating the data, i.e. money, from the existing system to the new system. So again, we were back in the necessity to be understandable, authentic, speaking with the clients openly, apologizing for stealing those 10 to 15 minutes, but explaining why is it good for them and good for the future of the solution, etc. And currently we are we celebrated at the end of 2024 1 million clients in the new system, which after all these sprints became more robust, more reliable, more trustful, more stable, and still being fast and 24/7 online. And in 2025 we have the homework to migrate the rest of clients, which is approximately 800,000 clients in retail, and in parallel with that, newly onboarded clients, which we target somewhere at the level of 150,000 or 200,000 new clients in it. Because again, we want to take the benefit from the fact that the new technology is scalable and we can afford to have much more clients than we used to have before.
So I was hired many years ago at JP Morgan Chase in the technology division to help them with transformation of Agile. My title was program manager / coach. Now, I went to my manager and said, what is program manager? And he's like, don't worry about that. You're a coach. The main reason for that, I realized it later, was that the hierarchy of human resources, the HR hierarchy, was not catering to this new world. And what I'm realizing from what you're sharing with me is there was a huge HR change. The HR had a big role to play to make this successful in your bank.
Ever felt like your product backlog was overflowing? Stakeholders were pulling you in different directions, and the development team was skeptical about this thing called Scrum and Agile. Here's the thing. Market conditions changing all the time, technology is changing all the time, and customer needs are changing all the time. Companies don't just need product owners and scrum masters who create specs or run meetings. They need visionaries who understand customer value, focus on outcomes instead of outputs, and can guide teams to deliver it rapidly and consistently. The question is, how do you become that product owner or Scrum Master? This is where I like to introduce you to Concepts and Beyond's Scrum Alliance certification courses. It really transforms the approach to product management and Agile. Concepts and Beyond delivers Scrum Alliance certification courses that grow the Scrum Master and product owner. These courses are about mastering the mindset that deliver product innovation and team performance. What makes these courses different? Instead of theoretical lectures, we use brain science principles to make learning stick. Our trainers focus on practical skills you can apply in your next sprint. Imagine coming back to work with the confidence to prioritize your backlogs effectively, the skills to collaborate with developers meaningfully, and the know-how to deliver products that customers actually love. The product owner journey starts with the CSPO, which is a 101 level course that has no prerequisite. If you have work experience, I would suggest taking the ACSPO course to become a practitioner. If you like to advance beyond that, take the CSPPO course that focuses on you becoming a master practitioner. The Scrum Master journey starts with the CSM, which is again a 101 level course that has no prerequisites. If you have work experience, I would highly recommend you take the ACSM to become a practitioner. And if you like to advance beyond that, take the Certified Scrum Professional Scrum Master, CSPSM, that focuses you on becoming a master practitioner. And if you're a leader, leading your team and your organizations, then consider taking the Certified Agile Leadership Workshop. This class prepares you to manage the dramatic change we have been experiencing and lead yourself, your team, and your organization effectively. Here's what you get: interactive sessions using innovation games that unlock product creativity, real-world scenarios that mirror your daily product challenges, practical tools for backlog management and stakeholder communication, and a supportive community of product professionals and Scrum professionals. Our trainers become your guides on your side in your Agile journey. The best part, our in-person and virtual courses fit into your busy schedule with cohort-style learning that gives you time to practice between sessions. Visit conceptsandbeyond.com or scan this QR code and discover how your certification courses can transform your approach to product management and Agile adoption.
Let's start with I think the JP Morgan Chase is one of the best banks in the world.
Yes.
They are the largest with a fascinating story also through the financial crisis and everything. So let's start positively. But Anil, you are inviting me to the muddy waters of is the rest of the bank ready? And what is needed to be done? In the codes of names of functions and roles in the organization in order to make it work.
Yes.
So when I speak about Agile and the scale, and we started with 60%, we have created so huge gravity power that HR followed, finance followed, risk management followed, and compliance followed. What does it mean in reality? The CFO came to us saying, I need my tribe, because if I don't have my tribe, I'm not able to speak your language.
Sure.
The HR came and said, we need to stop calling you, program manager. Let's start with I think the JP Morgan Chase is one of the best banks in the world.
Yes.
They are the largest with a fascinating story also through the financial crisis and everything. So let's start positively. But Anil, you are inviting me to the muddy waters of is the rest of the bank ready? And what is needed to be done? In the codes of names of functions and roles in the organization in order to make it work.
Yes.
So when I speak about Agile and the scale, and we started with 60%, we have created so huge gravity power that HR followed, finance followed, risk management followed, and compliance followed. What does it mean in reality? The CFO came to us saying, I need my tribe, because if I don't have my tribe, I'm not able to speak your language.
Sure.
The HR came and said, we need to stop calling you, program manager, project manager, a managing director, etc.
Yeah.
Because the language is different.
Sure.
So we need to take our systems, the HR systems, and redo them in order to fit with what is the new normal. And we did it in risk management. If you take the models and you go to the essence what the model means, it's a coding. So to put in place the best possible model for my future consumer loan means that here the tribe of the customer journey needs to be perfectly aligned with people who are taking care of the controls. But the people making care of the controls need to create the model, the engine, the risk engine, independently, but still in the same logic as the entire product is being prepared. So it became the new normal. It became much larger, also relatively to the rest of the bank, and became the standard of working. And I know what you are talking about. We had the same problems, the same issues with the names. I told you I didn't know what Scrum Master means.
Sure.
Whether it's someone from the cuisine of my favorite restaurant, or is it a coder, or is it a coach, or is it who is it?
Yeah.
Because those roles and functions and names didn't exist in our minds.
Sure.
And didn't exist in the systems, which needs to be aligned.
You go about doing this change. What were certain measurable impacts it made in terms of either revenue, in terms of return on investment? Because I can imagine the scale at which you did. There was a lot of investment made, and I'm assuming your parent companies are looking to see if there is a return on that. So what were some measurable impacts that you could highlight across the years and see a little bit of summary of that?
I might be long here because I like talking about it. I am of the opinion that you need to measure the outcome in order to be sure that you are going the right direction. And at the end of the day, I'm in charge of running a company. So it serves also the shareholders, and we need to create the value for them. So coming back to your question, in order to make sure that we are well aligned, we have broken down the whole strategic plan into, at that time, if I remember well, approximately 10 objectives and key results for the company. Being sure that the objectives are understandable for everyone, and the key results and the way how we measure the key results are understandable for everyone, are satisfied.
Yes.
We created very short set of KPIs targeting in next 5 years, which were return on equity, cost to income ratio, targeted number of branches, targeted number of FTEs, so people.
Yeah.
Targeted new revenues stemming from new streams of revenues, NPS, Net Promoter Score, satisfaction of clients, and targeted satisfaction of people, which we measure through so-called meter. Those 7 aspects were written, not literally written on the wall, but were clear to everyone. And we knew that it's not only about changing the way how we work, but making the outcome more visible, efficient, increase the productivity, etc., etc. And at the end of the day, what is the best moment in this system, and it's hard to achieve that, and we are not there yet entirely, to be honest, is that the coder understands how the line of codes which he has or she has been working on today is building into the P&L of the bank. What is the value? Why I am here?
Yeah.
What is the purpose? What am I fixing? And how does it translate into higher satisfaction of client, better P&L, or any other of those aspects or indicators which I have described? This is the moment. It's not coming every day and not to every person, but for me, it's the ultimate goal when you speak about culture, that people know, why am I here? What is my goal? Am I happy with that? Am I identified with that? And then, knowing what is the measurable outcome of it.
So can you tell us a little bit about the results?
Yes, I can, because I spoke with investors.
Yes.
So it's very fresh. So on the side of people's satisfaction, we are not there yet, and we will not be there because we structured our plan between 2020 and 2025, and we wanted to be at the level of between 70 and 80, whatever that means, because there is very detailed methodology behind, and we were growing from 60 to 80. We were above 70. Last research gave us back the feedback that we are below 70. So I know already today that in 2025 we will highly probably not be there. Second, a net promoter score. We knew that amongst the let's say relevant competitors, we need to be at certain level in order to get ourselves either the champions or one of the best treated or best perceived banks by their clients and non-clients. And the NPS, the Net Promoter Score methodology, is pretty brutal. It says on the scale between 1 and 10, if the answer is 10 or 9, you can tick 1 positive point. Whether it's 8, 7, 6, it's neutral. Whether it's below 6, it's negative.
Yeah.
It's very, very strict. At that time, when we started, we were somewhere between, let's say, between 10 and 15, maybe sometimes higher than 15, maybe crossing 20. And on corporate banking, we were sort of at 50. So we were the champions.
Wow.
We were the highest ranked in the country. And we said, if you want to be really like successful bank, because successful bank is undoable without satisfied client, we said we need to find ourselves around 50 positive points, which is very hard to achieve, but still you have Apple, which is 70 or probably higher than 70. And we said, well, if you want to be the love brand, we need to target high. When introducing the new bank, because the new bank was translated into new application, new internet banking, and when we started to migrate the clients didn't like it. So suddenly we found ourselves below 0. We were in negative territory. That's the moment where the organization, and let's not speak about anonymous organization, but the people must not lose their dedication, their engagement, their focus on delivery, because this is the moment where you can either lose the motivation and morale in the team, or you can boost it by incremental increase. And very quickly, in probably less than 6 months, we elevated the NPS to positive 30 positive points. So we made like the delta was almost plus 50.
Wow.
Because we discovered that the design, the usage, the user friendliness, the functionalities of the system are, let's say, better perceived by the clients when they start using them more frequently. And with the time, it grew very quickly. And for the newcomers, for the newly onboarded clients, it was fine at the very beginning. We were in positive territory from the beginning. As far as branches are concerned, we were at almost 400 back in 2018, and we said we want to be at 200 in 2025. Now, as we are approaching the second quarter of 2025, I can say we are currently at the level of 186, so lower than we expected. And why we can afford to be lower? Because the digital sales are growing in exponential way. So our capability to sell in digital way was at somewhere between 10 and 15%. Today, it's above 60% in the new application, and it will be growing. As with the migration of new clients, it will be growing, and with the equipment by new products and new services, it will be growing. This is helping us to turn down the costs related to brick and mortar branches. Then we can also take out some people from back office because the processes are much more simpler. The simplification is the underlying claim. Much simpler, much more straightforward, and requiring less labor force there. Then cost to income, we expect it to be below 40. We are above 40. So we are not there.
Yeah.
And we will not be there in 2025. We know why, and we are working on fixing those things, but we will be not there. Speaking about number of people, we have decreased the number of people from 7,500 to targeted 5,500, and we will be there. Speaking about ROE, we wanted to deliver to the shareholders approximately 15% of ROE, and we will be slightly lower, so not delivering. And as far as the new revenues are concerned, we will deliver what will highly probably deliver what was planned. So again, I'm not hesitating to speak that we didn't deliver by 100%.
Yeah.
Some of those targets were super ambitious. One would say crazy at the moment when they were adopted or decided, but we know what is the target, we know what is the ambition, and we are keen to deliver it.
Across these years, what I'm realizing is that from a bureaucratic, potentially lot more manual focused bank, potentially a lot more brick and mortar bank, you really use technology as an advantage.
Yes.
To make your bank really superior, really this new bank that you're talking about, getting ready for new things that might come in the market or new changes that might come. And one of the changes that came to all of our lives was COVID-19. And how prepared were you to handle that?
It was one of the most difficult moments in our lives, we can say, and definitely in the transformation of KB. We were lucky enough, and I told you the calendar, that we implemented the new organization between August 2018 and February 2019. The lockdown came exactly 12 months after, which was enough time for the teams to work in the new way, to cooperate in the new way, to speak in the new way, to use the same tools and logic when delivering things, etc. When we were working from homes, my guys from IT, they made a fabulous piece of work because they connected each and every household of our employees by secured lines, including those which were delivering the service to clients, etc. So we were prepared, and I was so proud of the team that we have never interrupted the service for our clients. Our clients were sitting home as well, and they were not supposed to go, or sometimes allowed to go to the branches. So suddenly the digital solutions became the only way. So a little bit cynically, I can say COVID-19 was the best chief digital officer in various industries, because it increased the speed of digitization in many industries, including banking. Komerční is so-called systemically important bank for the country, for the economy. So by law, we were obliged to continue delivering our services, and we did. And we were one of the most successful banks when taking the so-called partially guaranteed loans for small and medium-sized companies in the country, which were distributed to clients which were afraid that they might be short of cash during these days and months. KB was one of the largest distributor of these loans. Yeah. So yes, it was dramatic. It was not pleasant, and KB Komerční confirmed that it has a role in the economy, which is very, very important.
Yeah, and I think that the Agile mindset helped your employees during this time to say, okay, we're going to make mistakes, we're going to falter. This is a new way, new world that we are in, but the mindset says, okay, let's learn and get better.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
This is really getting me to the point where I really want to talk about you and leadership, because when I teach leadership in my classes, I think the big portion of leadership is the Agile will succeed if you have the right leader at the helm. So what were your leadership learnings during this transformation?
Yes, the first thing which I had to realize is that there is no way I will be the smartest guy in the room just because someone gave me the title of CEO.
Yeah.
So the only reaction which was possible for me and natural for me was, let's not be afraid to say people that you don't know something. Yeah. And let's put yourself on the learning path, making mistakes, learning from the mistakes, and speaking loudly about that, and coming back to, let's say, to the scene or to the work the day after in a little bit improved shape, etc. So for me, the leadership meant and means authenticity, openness, transparency, being able to speak and to be accountable, not only in front of shareholders, in front of clients, but also in front of your own people, and go ahead with maximum level of communication with people.
There are several CEOs, there are several people that are leaders that are going through the same transformation. What advice would you have for them?
I would say the first one is, don't be afraid to take sometimes hard decisions. It's your skin in the game, but if you don't want to take hard decisions, don't take the position, right? For me, it's impossible to take the position of CEO and play a sort of risk-free role. That's not possible. Second, be yourself. I mean, people will very quickly realize if you are not authentic. They will see that you are playing a role. So be yourself, and all the goods and bads, with your sort of authentic expression of vulnerability here or there. You will deliver nothing without your team.
Yeah.
So treat your people as people, not as robots, and be sure that one understands where you and the company is heading to, because the knowledge it must be very basic information, because everyone in the company needs to understand what is going on and where we are directing the future. So be understandable in your communication and don't hesitate to communicate, because as I said at the beginning, if you communicate 3 times more than yesterday, it will be probably 3 times less than people expect from you.
Yeah. You might have had missteps. One misstep you would like to share and how you overcame that.
Yes. The first one was which I already mentioned. We decided to go ahead with 2 lighthouse stripes, and we didn't realize that those should be the most, I would say, simple in order to make sure that they will work, etc. And we picked up, the payment stripe, which is one of the most complex you can, you can imagine. But so there was a mistake. As I told you, we were transparent, saying, yeah, it happened. It's our mistake. It's nobody else's mistake. We will start only with 1. And what was at stake at that time was that the organization will not trust us.
Yeah.
We know what we do. And it was very hard. But the moment when we said it openly, just subscribe to the main principles of transparency, learning from mistakes, etc. If I should pick up another one, we were working on our solution for consumer lending. And we didn't realize quickly enough that we are making investments into technology which will be not fully fitting with the new core banking system and the new applications and the new databases, etc. So we went to a moment where we realized, well, if it is not fitting, we need to write it off. And again, you must go out with this mistake. You are accountable to the shareholders. You are accountable to the main stakeholders. You are accountable to the team, etc. The write-off was not of any damaging amount, but there was a dead end which we discovered simply late. And that's another one which I would like to pick up, because, well, if we were more prudent in controls in those checkpoints, we should have discovered that a bit earlier.
And so one of the challenges that I've seen in organizations, they try to do a lot, meaning they're trying to do everything. But you're trying to focus your attention towards value and towards your customer. How do you ruthlessly prioritize the work that's being done? There are things that should not be done or will not be done because of certain reasons. How do you make that happen? Because people tend to not do that. They tend to try to do everything and end up doing nothing.
Yeah, I think that people sometimes, misinterpret what prioritization means. And it was somehow embedded in your question already. Prioritization to me doesn't mean that I have 50 different tasks and I'm just playing with ranking them from 1 to 50. But I say those 5 tasks are only those upon which I will put all my resources to achieve them, and those 45 will not be done. So the priority is the definition of what will not be done, not the definition of what will be done first. And it's one of the hardest exercises ever, because the organization also from the bottom to the up wants to bring more.
Yeah.
It's a very human nature, to get everything done. But if I should say one word, and I said that already, the simplification is the word which we wanted to achieve. We didn't want to be as complex as we used to be in the past, and we didn't want to be, let's say, all over the place with everything, because here the risk is that if you want to be everywhere, you are literally nowhere.
Yeah. A lot of great insights. Did you have mentors and coaches? And what was their impact on you?
Yes, in my career, when I have been building, step after step, there were important people. And in my youth, I was a soccer player, and I think between the age of 10 until the age of 18, I went through a pretty nice career as a soccer player, and I learned a lot from that. What does it mean to play in favor of the team? How do I reprioritize the interest of the team versus my own interest? What is the goal of the team? How do I make myself compatible with the others? What is my role in the team? What is my individual contribution? How am I accountable for this or that? Plenty of beautiful things which people can learn from sport, in my case, from collective sport. There were coaches from whom I have learned, exactly the answers for all those questions which I have raised. Another one, when I was young, I was actively searching for a coach, someone who is able to give me the right questions and help me to find the answers. I also used more experienced people of my age as of today who shared with me all the problems, the issues, the successes they went through during their careers. I tried to be attentively, listening to them and take what is there for me. One of the people with whom I have not spoken enough, I should have, and unfortunately I don't have the option anymore, it was my father. And here I need to say, if I may say to young people, speak with your father, speak with your parents until it is possible, because you can learn from them a lot. He was very successful in his work, and we have spent too little time discussing that. And I'm sure that he would be one of the sources of inspiration for me. And he was, in fact.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I just have at the conclusion a few things again, in terms of the bank. And there's this term that I heard about minimum viable bank. What does that mean to you?
This is the level of functionalities which we can display to clients, be sure that we are legally and from regulatory point of view certain that the service is fine, but it doesn't mean that you have all of these products which you used to have, for example, in place. So minimum viable for me means it is well-functioning, stable, good in front of the regulator, good in front of the clients, even though it's not yet fully equipped. Yeah. As if you could have imagined, a car which is certified for going to the road, yeah, without being of the equipment of the most modern cars of today.
Lastly, you had, investor conferences. I'm sure this question must have come up to you, which is, what does the future look like for your bank?
We are convinced that we will be able to capitalize on all these aspects which we have been debating here. So, light, modern, fast-moving company with new technologies, attacking the market and taking more from the market in favor of the shareholders and in favor of, let's say, creating the successful story of Komerční in the future.
So Jan, thank you so much for your time today. I think that this interview, this conversation that we had today is going to be extremely important for the learners of today who might be future CEOs. And I really, really look forward to continue to see what you and your bank do in the future.
Anil, thank you very much for having me. It was a big pleasure.
If you like this video, just know that this is the start of a new series where we interview the best product managers and leaders of the world. If you like this video, hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next